Guys, this is so exciting. In the next Halo game, there may be a massive return to the Flood in the next campaign, and this is super cool because we got brand new evidence regarding on Halo Waypoint, but also some things that Xbox and Halo Studios said, formerly 343. Now, I'm not holding my breath. I'm very wary about what the next Halo game is going to look like and play like and launch like, but with that being said, I can tell you from at least my insider source that a lot of the leadership positions that used to be at 343 years ago, they hated the Flood. Now, I'm pretty sure they're gone because at this point, 343 is unrecognizable as it was 10 years ago. Again, I still think there could be some cultural or kind of policy issues going on here because of Microsoft or just Halo Studios itself. I'm not quite sure. But with that being said, I think that this is time for a change. There was no Flood in Halo 4, 5, and Infinite. It's been so many years since we've seen the Flood, even in the DLC of Halo Wars 2, and that was already 8 years ago or so, right? So what's going on here, and what is the Blight Lands? Well, they said this was not a tech demo. They said, at least the studio head, I believe, referred to this specifically as this is a creation of assets, right? This is stuff that they plan to use. And with that being said, they plan to use the Blight Lands. This is stuff that we're seeing, assets, models, textures, most likely are going to be implemented in the next game. They would not bother creating this huge environment and teasing it if it wasn't some kind of big tease of the return of the Flood. So Halo Studios, now formerly, 343, talks about this Project Foundry, right? How they're designing the creative potential for Unreal, right, of the next games. And so they talk about the Blightlands here on their new Halo Waypoint post. It's a spooky, scary skeleton season, so we thought we'd delve a little deeper into what exactly the Blightlands are in Halo lore. Well, clearly it's a landscape taken over by the Flood, but they go over more in detail about what's going on here, biome-wise, right? The Flood is not something that infects sentient beings. It threatens all biodiversity in the galaxy, right? Though the Flood is capable of surviving and prospering in almost any environment, in the early stages of an outbreak, there are environmental conditions that can slow the parasite's spread, something that factors into containment protocols of various foreigner installations, which utilize artificial weather and terraforming systems. So it looks like this is probably placed on a ring, even though we don't see any ring here. Obviously, there is a beam emitter, which is pretty much a clear sign that we're on a Halo ring. So something's slowing down this, although it looks like it did not work very well long term. But such mitigating factors never guarantee a victory over the parasite. The Flood 2 is capable of adjusting local environments to create the optimal conditions of spreading the Flood supercell. Left unchecked, uncontained, Blightlands are the result of the parasite's expansion. So what we're seeing here is a true-to-life Halo lore look at this absolute takeover of the Flood, the final takeover. Now, honestly, this reminds me of Halo Wars 1 because you'll see this in the campaign and on some of the maps where the environment is just completely taken over. You can see this a little bit in the Halo games, certain sections and corridors, but you don't quite see something like the Blightlands from my memory, if my memory serves me correct. There's nothing really quite like an environment takeover like this in the Halo games, at least in recent memory, besides maybe a little bit of Halo 3, right? So with that being said, they say it's not simply native life that is consumed in the local area, but the vitality of the soil and even solar energy all contribute towards transforming lands into nightmarish plague fields featuring towering spore mountains and other vile methods through which the Flood can spread even further. What I really like about this, they even show a little bit of Halo Wars here too, I love that, is that they're talking about exactly what happens, and they're kind of getting into the science of it, which is exciting because, I'm sure this has already been in Halo for quite some time, but the fact is that they're looking at that lore and really practicing it and thinking about it on a scientific level, right? which is just really fun to think about, you know, and how they're taking this a bit more seriously. And that's why I really do think the flood's going to come back here, too. The city of New Mombasa, in simulations of what would have happened if the shipmaster Ratas Vadam hadn't commanded his ships to glass the local area when the Indulgence of Conviction crashed on Earth, as visualized in Halo Spartan Assault. I think that this would have been, you know, pretty disastrous, obviously. New Mombasa being taken over by the flood would have been really gross. You can see these really creepy little flood mutants walking around. And honestly, I'm a big fan of Dead Space, so I think there's all kinds of brand new forms. In fact, there's even a little bit of gameplay here. I believe Branching Sickness, which is this very high quality fan-made Halo game in Unreal Engine, is going to bring about brand new forms of the flood. I think that's what they're working on next, and creating the AI system and creating like how the AI will work against the player and work with each other against the player. So while we have no direct confirmation that the flood is coming back to the next Halo game, it is clear that they've made assets that they've admitted that they intend to use for future Halo projects. And also, they're talking about the lore of it, sharing stuff. This is the first time we've seen the flood in a relevant way in many years, I believe, besides like Spartan customization and Halo Infinite. And this is a pretty big deal to me, and I think that they are much more open to bringing back the flood and perhaps making Halo M-rated again, bringing back one of those core aspects of Halo, which is horror. And honestly, it's just something that has not been seen in a long time, and that's what this franchise has been based on. Like, you know, they want to constantly harp on Halo 1 and talk about how great Halo 1 was and remake it 1,000 times over. Well, bring back the horror at least, because that's what we want to see, man. I want to see a little bit of it, at least for a few missions in the game. You guys let me know what you think. Or do you hate the flood? I heard some people hate the flood. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one soon. Peace.